Let's say that together. I am divine. And again, I am divine. And one more time and take it in. I am divine. And then nudge somebody next to you and say, you are divine. You know, Reverend Sue and I have had this really contentious relationship for the last 3 years over one subject. And I've tried to get to the women's functions, like the women's retreats yesterday, like some of the wonderful Monday night things, and she won't let me in. And I don't get it. I promised I would go and drag, and she still won't let me in. And it's one of my deep regrets, Sue. It's one of the places where my heart is just broken. Next lifetime, yeah. Past lifetime too, I think. But anyways, but not this lifetime. Thank you, Holly. Let's breathe together. Feel the energy in the room. All this love, all this new beginning, all this excitement. If you're here for the first time, it's not always this way, but it can be always this way, and we enjoy and speak our word that it is this way. Look around. That it continues to be this way. So thank you. Today our talk is on dealing with conditions. How many people love to deal with conditions? Okay. A couple people raise their hand, yes. And this comes out of one of the statements that's in the What We Believe, which is in the back of your program, that Ernest wrote back in 1927. And he says, we believe in the control of conditions with the power of this mind. And I've had people say to me, it's like, I have difficulty with that phrase, that sentence. I have difficulty with that one. And so I invite them to look back a couple of statements before that, because this is a whole series of statements. And he says, we believe that the universal spirit, which is God, operates through a universal mind, which is the law of God, and that we are surrounded by the creative mind, which receives the direct impress of our thought and acts upon it. This mind receives the direct impress of our thought and acts upon it. So what is a condition? Merriam-Webster describes it as a state of being and attendant circumstances. It says that it's something essential to the appearance or occurrence of something else, such as oxygen is a condition for life, right? So we have to have a condition for something else to happen. It says it's a prerequisite, and there's a couple of obsolete meanings. It says it's a covenant or a temper of mind. And so let's take that in for a moment. What is a condition? It's an agreement with the infinite presence for what's going to show up. I have a covenant with the infinite for what is going to show up. And who makes that covenant? I do. I get to make that covenant. I get to say, and this is what I want to show up, how I want it to show up. And if you're like me, sometimes you get really ticked off that it shows up. Because I haven't consciously said, this is what I want. I have unconsciously said, this is what I want. And the universe doesn't care about conscious or unconscious. If I'm sitting there going, this is what I want, it says, yes. I was out in the hallway between services, and I heard somebody who was talking about my leaving, and another person said to me, change is hard. I thought, that's a belief. That's putting it out into the universe. Change is hard. Change doesn't have to be hard. Change is just change, right? It's happening every moment, every moment, every moment. Do you realize that? Every cell in your body, every breath, everything is in a state of flux right now. Everything is changing. And some of it's easy, some of it's hard. We get to decide what it is. So conditions are the result of beliefs that are placed into the mind, into the one mind. I love the sign out here. I think David Aiken put those words up. And is he over there beside you, Kathy? No. Okay, sorry. But he's our sign volunteer today. And what he put up was, everything is impermanent excepting the love of God. Everything One more time. Everything is impermanent except the love of God. That's the consistent thing. And so this love takes on form. It takes on shape. Because that's all there is. There's only one. There's only one. There's not two. There's not God and something else. Okay? There's not me and you. There's me and you. Breathe. There's me and pick your person. The one that kind of, what's the Dalai Lama call him? Your sacred friend. Yeah. We have friends, the ones who we love to hang out with, and then we have the sacred friends, the ones who help us to learn to open our heart into greater compassion by doing what we don't want them to do. Okay? And so we all have sacred friends. And yet we're all still one. There's in the Hindu myth, I believe it's the Ramayana or the Mahabharata, one of the two, Ram is in the process of the demon king has kidnapped his wife and taken her, and Ram must go rescue her and has this whole series of massive adventures. He loses his kingdom, he has to go rescue her, and grows and grows and grows out of this process, finally slays the demon king, and the minute he slays the demon king, his charioteer rides up with him and hands him an envelope, hands him a letter that says, if you're reading this, you must have killed me, which means you have completed your mission. And I've been so honored to help you to grow, to help you to become and remember the magnificence of who you are. Those are our sacred friends. Sometimes they steal our wives or our husbands. They steal our youth. They steal our money. They steal our hopes and dreams. And yet they help us to expand. I heard a talk a couple weeks ago where somebody said, our hearts never break, our illusions break. And you want your illusions to break, right? Because they are illusions. And if we're going to see truth, the illusions all have to fall away. So conditions are that result of what we think and what we believe. And everything in that condition comes out of one thing. It comes out of that infinite energy source. Whatever name we give it, it is out of that presence. It is out of that one. That one thing operates through you and me. Each of us is a center of divine operation. Say that with me. I am a center of divine operation. And take that in, what that really means. Because you get to create in the universe, not only get to, but you constantly are creating in the universe, in your lives. And that's why I like to call the good news and bad news of this teaching, right? Because sometimes I look at the stuff I create and I go, wow, that's wonderful. And sometimes I look at the stuff I create and go, yeah, that's their fault. See, we create as an expression of the divine, and that life has to be connected to us. Otherwise, there's God and something else. There's God and me, right? And sometimes I like to think that. There's me. I know how to run the universe, and I'll tell God how to do that. But the truth is, that's not how it works. There's only one. And that one life expresses through me, and I get to direct it. And it doesn't have an agenda for how I direct it. Just like electricity doesn't have an agenda for how I use it, does it? Okay? It just goes where I plug it in and where I direct it. I find my toaster works better when I plug it in than when I don't. Right? And so I get more when I'm consciously connected to the source of power than when I don't. So one is creating through me. It's creating through my thought, it's creating through my word, it's creating through my feeling, and it's creating through my belief. It's creating through who I am, not who I wish I was, not who I even say that I am, but who I truly am, the essence of myself. It's creating through that. Constantly creating through that. Belief is just focused thought, word, and feeling. And that infinite produces results. Years ago, my doctor came and told me, he says, you had a cataract, early forming cataract in your right eye. And he said, that's good news and bad news. And I says, okay, let's see, knife blade to eyeball, I can understand bad news of that. What's the good news that? He says, they're going to put a corrected lens into your eye and you're going to see 20/20 for the first time in your life. And at the time, I had 2400 vision. Okay? That means that what a person with 20/20 can see at 400 feet away, I had to be within 20 feet to be able to see clearly. And the joke is, there's nothing that I saw clearly at 20 feet. More like about 20 millimeters maybe. Okay? And so it's going to have that. But he says, but the problem is that your left eye doesn't have a cataract. And so the insurance is going to cover the right eye, but it's not going to cover the left eye. And so if we do it like that, you're going to have 20/20 vision in this eye and 2400 vision in this eye. He said, it's not urgent. We've got about 5 years to play with it here. But I immediately went into prayer. I said, okay, God, balance this out. Either both eyes cataracts or both eyes not cataracts. Right? But balance, okay? I don't want, a Coke bottle bottom lens in one eye and nothing in the other eye. And so, of course, within a few years, what did I have in my left eye? Okay, the doctor said, we can call that medically necessary cataract, and off we went. And so I have this wonderful 20/20 vision today because of that. Okay? We create. Ernest Holmes says that if we look at our hand long enough and says there's a wart there, there's a wart there, there's a wart there, I'm going to sweep that away because I don't want that, that a wart will appear. That a wart will appear. Okay? And then as it says, we look at it and say, it's gone, it's gone, it's gone, it will go away. We create. The universe, the infinite energy, inhabits form as we direct it and leaves form as we direct it. It inhabits and it leaves. And we get to pull the plug or plug it in. Our consciousness, both individually, yours and mine individually, and all of us together, collectively, create results. Have you noticed that you're living on the planet with other people? You've noticed that, right? Okay, yeah, I've noticed it too. Have you noticed that some of those people think thoughts that are different than yours? Some radically, yes. There's polarization of thought. They all are creating results, consciously or unconsciously. Okay? And so because we don't live in a vacuum, we share our co-created results. That's why I had the March on Science, or for Science yesterday, not the March on Science, but the March for Science. Okay? And things like that. So how do we uncreate a result we don't like? We can't. We can't uncreate a result. The real result is there. It's just there. It just is. However, we can create something new. We can create something new by withdrawing our thought and our energy from what has been created, because if we try to uncreate it, we focus on the condition that we don't want, and we do what? We give it energy. We give it energy. There's that Native American story of which wolf grows, it's the one you feed, right? And so today's reading reminds us, where Ernest says, you're not dealing with conditions. We think we're dealing with conditions, but we're not. We're dealing with thought, and only thought. To think of disease creates it. To think of disharmony creates it. To think of poverty creates it. To think of whatever it is creates it. And so we stop thinking of that and we start thinking of something else. Abraham Lincoln was once told to have faith in the Lord as he was going through all this stuff with the slavery and the Civil War and all like that. He was told, have faith that the Lord was on his side. And he replied, he says, I am not at all concerned about that. For I know that the Lord is always on the side of the right. But it is my constant anxiety and prayer that I and this nation be on the Lord's side. Can I be on the side of that which is the truth? Rather than trying to get Spirit to align with my way, I seek to align with Spirit's way. Amen. Rather than trying to get Spirit to do it my way. Dang. I try to align with Spirit and its way. This is what we talked about last week during the Easter Sunday service. Not my will, but thine be done. And God's will is always for what? Greater and greater good. God is love. It's not trying to create something. I talked last week about looking at the third step of the 12-step program, which is where I surrender my life over to a power greater than myself. And a little part of me was saying, no, I don't want to do that just yet because I might end up as a minister in a leper colony in India, poor and broke, and all that chatter that was in the back of my mind, right? But that's not God's idea. Michael Beckwith reminds us that we're not surrendering into poverty, we're not surrendering into stupidity, we're not surrendering into anything else, we're surrendering into excellence, into the full expression of my divinity. That is what we're expressing into. Would you be willing to surrender into that? Yes. Great. Join me in saying, I surrender into the full expression of my divinity. Take a breath. Yeah. How does that feel? Awesome. My friends Narayan and Janet, who played music here about a year or so ago, he plays the trumpet and she has the keyboard and they sing. They have this wonderful little song that there's a lyric in it, or a chorus in it that says, all my dreams are waiting. And they take a pause and it says, for me to come true. Isn't that cool? For me to come true. When I come to my true self, when I come to my true nature, when like the prodigal son, I come to myself, my true self, then the universe rushes in. It's waiting for me to come true. To become who I truly am, the divinity that I truly am, the love that I truly am, the power that I truly am, the creativity and the glory and the greatness that I am. I have control of conditions when I align with the one source and seek to bring the conditions into alignment with truth, with that truth of what God is, not what I want. And I let myself become a conduit for that truth. And when I do that, the truth is always greater and greater good. That truth is what is showing up. That truth is what shows up. So the question we get to ask ourselves is, am I willing to be a conduit for truth? Am I willing to align myself with Spirit? Am I willing for me to come true? This is what Jesus means when he says, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these other things will be added unto you. But most of us are like the young man who, when Jesus said, take all you have, sell it, give the money to the poor, and follow me. See, that was a question of, will you let go? Will you let go of wherever you're clinging onto? And of course, that young man said no, and then Jesus gave that famous quip of, it's easier for a camel to get through the eye of the needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. Because in his time, a rich man was attached to the tradition, the family tradition of that richness. It meant something to him. They had meaning to it. And we have meaning to our conditions, right? We have the meaning to why we're right and why our way is the way. Have you noticed? Okay. See, if we listen to our culture, it adds meaning to what age means, right? It means this and this and this is going to happen to your body. It means you're not going to be able to get your dreams as much as you want to anymore because you don't have as much time anymore. Is God limited in dreams? No. Is God limited in dreams? No. No. Does God age? No. Does God care about age? Is the infinite health and life energy available to you right now? Yes. Yeah. But we buy into a cultural concept that says, oh, because you're a certain age, it means this. Okay? And so we get to start to look at that and start to shatter these meanings. Because I live in Reading, it means this. Because I'm a man or a woman, it means this. Because I'm a man, it means I can't go to the women's retreats. And physically that may be true, but in spirit I can be there and catch that energy, right? Because the women always come back and bring that love and energy, and so we all get to be blessed with it. Breathe that in. We add meaning. We either do it consciously or unconsciously. We either do it ourselves or we let other people tell us what that meaning is supposed to be. And so we get to create by becoming more and more conscious, more and more aware of what we're really thinking, of what we're really believing, of who we really identify ourselves to be. And who we are is divinity. Say it with me again. I am divine. Okay. And I want you to take that this week and remember that. This is your truth. This is your essence. You are divine. So this week is our spiritual practice. I can ask you to do 3 things. Number 1, to play with this practice, to engage with this. Number one is look at a condition that's in your life that you would like to have different. Just look at it. Just notice it. You don't have to put a whole lot of energy about it. You don't have to avoid it. Just notice it. I have this condition that I would like to be different. Okay? And number two, ask, what is the spiritual truth that wants to be revealed here? If I'm looking at a health issue, what is the spiritual truth? The spiritual truth may be the health, the wholeness, the life, and vitality of the divine. If I'm looking at a financial issue, it may be the abundant opulence of the universe. If I'm looking at a relationship issue, it may be the love and the harmony of the divine. If I'm looking at a creativity issue, it may be the creativity of spirit. What is it that wants to be revealed here? What is the God essence that wants to be revealed? Okay? What are the qualities that want to be expressed? Spend some time with that. Spend some time listening to your inner wisdom self to guide you to what wants to be expressed here. And then third, begin to focus on that truth, on that quality. And bring that quality and allow it to manifest into being. Now, the place that sometimes we as wonderful, highly intelligent 21st century beings get caught up in is, I got to know the how. Got to have a plan. Make it happen, right? No, you don't. And in fact, you can't. See, I can't plan how stuff is going to show up. Now, I've talked a couple times about the house that I've manifested up in Olympia. I couldn't plan that. I was clear on what I wanted, and the universe says, and let me take care of that for you. Okay? Would you be willing to turn your process over to the universe to let it do the how? Yeah. And so for those of you who like to have control and drive, would we like to turn it over also? Yes. I turned my life over to God. I took that step this week with my sponsor. I turned my life over to Spirit. Don't focus on the how. It's God's responsibility. You focus on the what. So whatever quality of Spirit that you want to have manifest, that's what you focus on. You pull your attention off of the condition. You don't like something that's happening over here? What is it that wants to be called forth in that place instead? And you focus on that condition. This is what Ernest Holmes means when he says before something and against nothing. Before the direction you want to go. So are you willing to play with those three spiritual qualities, looking at a condition, asking what's the spiritual truth that wants to be revealed here, and then turning your attention and focusing on that this week? Yes. Great. Me too. Definitely. I want to close with a quote from Ernest. He says, "Stay with the one and never deviate from it. Never leave it for a moment." Now, the truth is, you and I never leave Spirit for a moment anyway, so we might as well get conscious about that, right? Okay? We might as well just get conscious. Yes, I am divine. I'm not divine just this moment sitting in church, okay? I'm divine tomorrow morning getting up out of bed when I look in the mirror and go, oh God, look at those wrinkles and look at that. Okay, I'm divine right then. I love the Louise Hay exercise where you look in the full-length mirror naked and say, I love you. And most people go, ooh. Okay? Can you love you? Take a breath. Can you love you? Yes. Stay with the one and never deviate from it. Never leave it for a moment. And then he puts this all in caps. To desert the truth in the hour of need is to prove that we do not know the truth. And to know the truth means I am a place where it is embodied. I'm a place that allows it to be expressed. And so I invite you this week to know, to be knowers of truth, to be embodiers of truth in your lives. Let's move into prayer. Take a breath with me. There is only that one mind, that one heart, that one beingness, that one life, that joy, that love, that beauty, that power, that peace, that grace. That one is all there is. It is all there is. Nothing is outside of it. No one is outside of it. No thought, word, or deed is outside of it. All is this infinite presence. And because it is all that there is, you and I, each of us is one of this infinite presence right here, right now. All of us, even the list of faults and stuff we have about ourselves. All. When we look in that mirror and we see not only the external but also the internal, all is one with God. I am divine. All of me is divine. And so I speak my word that this week we manifest our divinity more powerfully, more beautifully than ever before, that we allow that essence of spirit, that nature of the capital T truth of what wants to come through us, of that love, of that beauty, of that life, of that joy, of that opulent good. We allow ourselves to manifest that more powerfully, more beautifully, more effectively, more wonderfully than ever before, because we turn to Spirit and say, work through me. Express yourself through me. I am an opening to the divine. Not my limited perspective, but your bigger perspective, your higher expression and higher idea of just how good it can be done. And I'm grateful for the powerful good that manifests in our lives, individually and collectively as a community, this week, this coming month, this coming year, as we say yes to that, as we walk and live our values, that value of truth, of wholeness, of our divinity in this world. I'm grateful, and I'm grateful for the Spirit that is behind, within, and as it all. I breathe in that Spirit, I breathe in that awareness, and I simply release this word into what we call the law, the process of manifesting that into form, because that is what takes care of it. I, thank God, don't have to figure it out, and neither do you. I allow that law, that infinite growth process, that nature to manifest beautifully, powerfully, perfectly. And it does so. I absolutely trust it to do so. It is mathematical in its certainty. It is inevitable in its process. It does so. I let it be. And so it is. Thank you.